Well, Governor, let me ask you, though, about two other things that the GOP bills would do. I want to put them up on the screen. They would ban 24-hour voting, and they would ban drive-through voting. Now, there was no allegation of any fraud in either of those. Harris County, the Houston area, employed both of those, and more than half of the voters who showed up were people of color. So you say you want to make it easier to vote. That's going to make it harder to vote. And the question is, why make it harder for some Texans to vote unless the point is to suppress voting by people of color?
So you mentioned a couple of things that need to be responded to. One, you mentioned how Harris County did this, and it was Harris County alone. And for your viewers, Harris County is where Houston, Texas is located. Let's go back to Article 1, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, where it says in there that it is the states, not counties, that have the authority to regulate elections. And despite that constitutional mandate, this past election, Harris County, a county, tried to create its own election system that had never been used in the state of Texas. It was not used in other parts of the state of Texas. And so what
but
the
Governor,
state of Texas is doing...
Why not let it go on? Governor,
I guess
the question is, if 24-hour voting worked, why not continue it?
Well, first, I'm going to answer your question specifically, but you need to go back to elections before now, because the same allegations were made when Texas passed a voter ID law, and everyone said the exact same thing. This is going to disenfranchise people of color. It will reduce voting. And the fact of the matter is, after we passed voter ID, we increasingly saw every election cycle more people go vote. It did not make it harder to go vote. It was easier to go vote. And the same thing applies here, and that is with 24-hour voting, one thing that we want to make sure that we have is integrity in the ballot box system, and we need to have poll watchers and monitors. And candidly, it's hard even for a county to get people to be watching the polls 24 hours a day. We are providing more hours per day for voting to make sure that anybody of any type of background, any type of working situation is going to have the opportunity to go vote. With regard to the drive-through voting, listen, this violates the fundamentals of what the way that voting integrity has always been achieved, and that is the sanctity of the ballot box. If you do drive-through voting, you're going to have people in the car with you, and it could be somebody from your employer or somebody else who may have some coercive effect on the way that you would cast your ballot, which is contrary to you going into the ballot box alone and no one there watching over your shoulder, so that the way you vote, only you will know what the vote will be. And to allow other people to pile into a car with you, it will alter that. In addition to, it would violate state law, because in state law we have prohibitions on electioneering close to the where people cast their vote. If you're doing drive-through voting, there's going to be electioneering. It could be on the bumper sticker in the car right in front of you. We do still, however, Chris, provide what's called curbside voting for those who qualify for curbside voting. That continues to be in place. Bottom line, Chris, is Harris County, under the Constitution, is not allowed to come up with their own rules. What Texas is doing, by adding more hours, we're making it easier for people to go vote. One last point, Chris, and that is, if you look at the hours of voting that Texas provides, it is far more hours of voting than exist in the state where our current president voted in, where they have exactly 0 hours of early voting. It's far easier to vote in the state of Texas than it is in Delaware, and yet nobody is claiming that there's some type of voter suppression taking place in Delaware.
Governor.